Well, I want to ask you, what's the basic of process work and how does it fit in classical psychology?
Well, it's a great question. You know, we're just coming from Vienna a couple of days ago, and which, in my mind, is one of the birthplaces of depth psychology, is Freud.
Mm-hmm.
And Freud was a genius. You know, was a genius. His idea that if you do things, now it's a commonplace, but at the time that if you do things, who you think you are, your identity, and why you think you're doing things is only part of the story. The other part is that part of your life is being organized by an additional kind of principle which he called the unconscious. And Jung, as you know, was a continuation of Freud, and unlike Freud, he had the same idea also, that you've been organized by something that he called the unconscious. But unlike Freud, he didn't think that you were driven by past traumas, in a way, and by basic drives, but he thought you were pulled, so to speak, by yourself. And you were driven by your history only, but you were also being pulled by your future, yourself. And Arnold Mindell, in a sense, is a continuation of Jung's idea, because both Freud and Jung believed that the way to understand or discover the disorganizing principle was through night dreams. They thought it was via radio, the royal path to understand the principles through night dreams. And Arnold Mindell, in my understanding, said, well, it makes no sense that we should go through life and not being able to connect to the very organizing principle that we have. And it led to the dream body, which basically shows, you also see that in some of the films that you're about to see, that if you work with a body symptom, the patterns that you find by following your experiences of the body are symmetric to the patterns that you find in your night dream. So process work basically says your difficulties, everything that looks like it's out of control in your life, is marginalized information that you can access and has a dream-like characteristic to it. So you can actually show that and make that visible at any given time and use it for imagination, creativity, more vibrancy, more dimensional life. Yeah.
Yes, if it does your life easier, or you study it for, does it heal symptoms? Does it make it conflict less violent?
Those are ongoing questions. And I have many answers, I think. This is another interview. But I love the question because these questions, we hope, these series now, or these various films that you see, will answer them for each person. The ones that are enthusiastic about making these hidden structures visible, the ones that are skeptic, they all will find hopefully their own answer to it.
What's the idea, what's behind the television thing that we filmed? And the whole point of working with people on camera and television.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't ask me that. I should ask you that, because that idea was born in an interchange, and you've been a great enthusiast about showing these films on television. Mm-hmm. So I should give that back to you. In your mind, what drove you to following this up and ending up really in some sort as a producer of the TV show?
Well, I was just thinking that for me, process work is very beautiful itself. How people open up and how you can see their processes, and also it's very learning because it's a great instrument. Also in practice, my idea was to show how it works in practice.
Beautiful.
Not only talk about it, but to see the moment.
Beautiful, beautiful. You showed that so good. By the way, I was watching you as you did it, and you said process work is so good. And and I would like to show it, and then you said in the moment, and then you said the moment. So in my mind, process work works with the three levels: consensus reality, everyday reality, measurable facts as we know them. It has a dreaming level, which is the interaction that appears through a hidden level. All those things that we feel and experience that are subjective, not just feel, experience that are subjective and therefore marginalized. They are marginalized, meaning have at times less value. And in the background of that is a sentient essence or a core, or the very nearly unspeakable thing. And it's very hard to write about these aspects. It's possible, and it's done in many and great ways. And showing that on television, in my mind, shows an additional aspect because it makes these things directly visible. You see them in the flow of the process, or as you would say, you can see it in the moment. It brings those points out that otherwise are hard to make. So I'm very excited that we had a chance to do what we do, publish these process work ideas.
Okay. So those work that we showed, that you did, they're all very different, and maybe you can name some types of them, and also what do they have in common?
Well, it's interesting. In my mind, I'm still fascinated after so many years. As I said in an earlier different interview, that process work shows the dream-like structure that organizes us, makes it visible in our everyday life, like in body symptoms. For example, you see this one work where a person is using body symptoms to get to her dreaming self. And in another work you see how conflicts, what appears as inner conflict is a creative tensions between different voices. So deep democracy as an inner political principle to give space and voice to all your various trends inside. If I say parts, it's not quite how I experience it because I don't feel these are parts of myself. I'm not made of parts. I'm one whole being, but it has many voices inside. I'm not, I and you, in my mind, we are not soloists. We are orchestras, and to give those various instruments voices. So I think that's what appears as inner conflict and frequently as outer conflict. And I think that's the uniting part between all these works, making or showing the dream-like structure in the background, and then showing, in my mind, how, once it's made visible, it becomes part of a creative, imaginative process of the person. Instead of saying, we have problems, is the therapeutic model, that need healing or solutions. Another way to say is that we have challenges, we all have challenges, and with these challenges come creative potentials with it. These challenges are more like Zen koans. They are meant to challenge our creativity and our imagination, that we come forward with new and creative solutions to what we have. In my mind, therapy was a good concept. It's no longer quite needed or in the same sense, as we are starting to realize that what we used to think of bugs like in programming language, meaning problems, are actually features or part of like the colorful, multidimensional personality that people are.
What viewer can learn, a viewer who watches television, the work, the series, what can learn for himself or herself from that, watching?
It's also a fantastic question because, of course, as you know, Ellen, who isn't part of this interview because this interview is happening in Moscow. Ellen is teaching in Ukraine, in Kyiv at the moment, that's why she's not part of that. The three of us spent many conversations about what's the pedagogical point of these things. And if you look at maybe a more traditional, old-fashioned way of teaching, it's like you're making this series, and this series has the following teaching point. And but teaching itself, or learning actually, is also a deep democracy process, meaning these works are meant to stimulate. It's like a brainstorming approach towards learning. They are meant to stimulate the observer. We think successful learning happens if people get the main point, which in our mind is believe in what you experience. Your experience is the core of all the solutions that come in your life, and your experience in interaction with other people's experiences is what really leads you to new and creative solutions. Now, we hope that alone this statement will create discussions, possibly conflicting discussions, debate, agreement, disagreement. So that's how learning happens. Learning happens by reacting in any way you want to the material that you're going to see.